Welcome to Mental Fitness, the Gateway to Success podcast, providing business owners, leaders, and entrepreneurs with the 3 INs: insights, inspirations, and intentional actions. Delivered through monologues and dialogues, we address topics like leadership, productivity, time management, work-life balance, and challenges like stress, conflict, mental health, and much more. Please do not hold back from suggesting specific topics and guests you would like on this podcast. Greetings and welcome to this episode of Mental Fitness, the Gateway to Success. First, before getting into the topic of today, I just want to say thank you. This week is the 1-year anniversary of this podcast. When I started this, I did not envisage for this to go every week for a year, apart from those few weeks while I was in ICU and over Christmas. But other than that, we haven't missed a week. And here we are. And at the moment, it's going strong, and I'm gonna keep going with it. So do please pop things into the comments if there are particular things you think I should cover or I might be able to cover, and if I can, I will. If I can't, I will let you know. So onwards and upwards. Today, I want to talk about a phrase that I unfortunately can't remember when and where it came to me, but it made a big impact on me because it made so much sense. And I have used it ever since, particularly when I'm working with people, I'm working with my clients to support their journey. I use it quite frequently. And the phrase is always seek to understand before seeking to be understood. Let me do that one more time. Always seek to understand before seeking to be understood. There is a lot to unpack in that, and I'll do my best in this episode today. Before coming on, I thought maybe I should just research, maybe I could get some information on the internet where this phrase maybe came from. And I did find it, but not quite the phrase in the exact same way, but I will give you the origin and the original version, which says, seek first to understand, then to be understood. And apparently it is from Stephen Covey's, however you pronounce the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which I know I read way back in time. Can't remember when. Not a few years ago, probably a few decades ago. So maybe that's where I picked it up, but I don't think so because my version is slightly different, and I just want to give credit to the original, but I'm going to stick to the version that I heard somewhere, which is fractionally different, but I like it better. So always seek to understand before seeking to be understood. And then what I want to do in this episode, I want to look at that in a number of different ways. And I definitely want to get to the business side of it and the value of practicing and living this way, particularly if you are in a leadership situation where you are leading other people, which probably really doesn't matter what you do, you will be in some form of leadership, whether it's with other people or with products or with services. And this phrase just fits in, seems to me, everywhere. So let's just take a couple of practical examples to start with. Say from a professional point of view, not talking about dealing with people in like directly. So let's say, for example, you're a website developer, and somebody comes to you and say, I want a website. You just go, sweet, and then you go and build a website. That would probably not serve the client. So you go, oh, okay, so what kind of website do you want? What do you want to do with it? What information is on it? What is the purpose of the website? And you would ask a whole bunch of questions to understand first. And then you can make yourself understood by saying, okay, so this type of website will work, and this type will work in this way, and that one won't so well, or are you thinking about this? And then you can keep probing with questions while giving feedback of your understanding. And that's natural. Let's say you're a mechanic and a customer comes in with a car. The first thing what's wrong with it? And then you seek to understand first what it is that the person is saying about the car. And then you open the bonnet maybe and you look to understand because maybe the person talking about the problem know nothing about cars and but you're still listening to know where to look next. And that might be under the bonnet or it might be at the wheels or whatever it is. So you use that understanding you get from understanding first. You don't just go, okay, I'll fix your car and come back in an hour. And then you go and try and figure out what's wrong with the car. You get as much information as you can, seeking to understand first. And then you might explain, well, we need to do this or we can do that, or this is a problem. How much time have you got and how much money have you got? And so on. And the journey carries on. Now, let's say you go to the doctor. The doctor don't just take a look at you, I think in general, and prescribe some medicine for you, or say go and exercise some more and nice meeting you. Uh, They go, why are you here? What's wrong with you? Oh, I got a pain here. Oh, okay. And then the doctor will look at that. So in my case, it's an absolutely critical part for me as a coach. I spent probably on an average more time seeking to understand my clients than putting across my thoughts and my ideas or my suggestion or solutions to whatever it is that they're facing. Because obviously, I mean, I can just, as here now, I'm just sitting here talking, trying to make you understand. And I can't ask you what your issue is or anything specific. So I'm not seeking to understand first. I'm just seeking to be understood. However, when I did the research and decided to do this podcast, I based that on what seemed to be a reality is that the understanding and awareness of the topic of mental fitness is fairly low. And that is not in and of itself necessarily a problem, but it turns out to be a problem. And it turns out that people in generally want to be more mentally fit because it is important to them. Like I might have mentioned this before, a research I did over the last, still going actually, the last probably month and a half of asking close to 80,000 people or business leaders, what is most important to you, fitness or physical fitness? And in that, what I got back was surprising in the sense that I got 90% of people said mental fitness. It's not that we, of course, we want both, but in terms of if I have to pick which one is most important, the mental fitness. So I know from the research and from doing things like this that I did seeking to understand. So when I sit here and talk about these things and how that relates to mental fitness, yes, I'm trying to be understood, but I've done a fair amount of work behind the scenes to understand whether that is relevant or not to people. So you're going to find in in whatever work you're doing, that you are most likely spending a fair amount of time trying to or seeking to understand just naturally. Like if you're going to send out an invoice to somebody, you need to understand who to send it to. What is the address? You have to understand that, and then you can put your message across. Um, so I don't know. I didn't particularly learn, anywhere in my life to have that interest and passion and skill to listen to people. And it's of course it's absolutely essential as a coach. And it's not something I learned as such along the way. It's just there. I'm curious. I love hearing people's stories, and then because of the journey I've been on myself. I have developed a large toolbox of things that I can then share with my clients. So when they share with me what it is that they're experiencing, the difficulties they're having, things they want to change, in most cases I can relate to it one way or the other. So in that situation, it seems to come quite natural and easy for me. And I've written books and, as I said, I've released podcasts and articles and all of that comes out of some level of understanding what it is the market needs and what it is that people are looking for. But I also want to be honest here, because that's what I ask my guests to do when they come on my podcast, and say I'm not as good at it outside of my role as a as a coach. I'm still very curious. I still love hearing people's stories. But one place that I'm working on, getting continuously better at seeking to understand before seeking to be understood, is with my wife. Now we're in the process of planning our 30th anniversary time away later this year, and we've been together for nearly 35 years. So we know each other pretty well. And in terms of seeking to understand, it's like, well, I don't need to seek to understand. I already understand. But the reality is, I don't. There's still things I don't understand. And also, it is that of genuinely showing interest in somebody else, in this case, that you love and that you've chosen to live with. And it's not always easy. There are times where I just don't want to know. It's like, oh, no, I don't need to know how your day was today. Thank you. And that's obviously not useful. So there are different ways of dealing with it. And let's not get into talking about how to deal with these things from a relationship point of view. It's not what this podcast is about right now. I just wanted to share with you that, this principle or this sentence of seeking to understand before seeking to be understood is still something I personally work on in my life. Another place that I am consciously working on it, and I have to work on it consciously. I don't have to, but I choose to because it's important to me. And another area in which I definitely can improve, and that's with our children. When they're all adults, they've left home, a number of years ago, living around the world. And whenever I talk with them, there's that part of me, like maybe it's the coach in me, or maybe it's a dad in me, I don't know. There's just, oh, they're sharing something that is happening. I know how to deal with that. And then I try to make them understand me by telling them what they should be doing. And I'm getting pretty good at not doing that any longer, but I still fall into it occasionally. So some work there to be done for me because it seems to work far better from a relationship point of view, which really is what I want to have with my children. From a relationship point of view, it works much better just to be curious and just trying to understand what they're experiencing. And then I might give a comment to that or not, or I might ask, would you like my thoughts on that, or whatever it is, but coming at it from the point of view of putting more focus on understanding rather than being understood. And the other side of this, in a way, is what would you prefer when you meet somebody else, whether it's socially or whether it is professionally? Do you prefer somebody that is actually listening to you when you talk or not? So if you prefer that, that means that you prefer somebody on the other side of you who value understanding in that moment over trying to be understood. Now, we all know that feeling where we're in and we're deeply into sharing something or talking about something, whether it's professionally or personally, and then this other person, or maybe there's a few people we're talking to, and they're coming in with their views and that, and then suddenly it's all about them. And it's all about their life and all about their problems, all about their solutions and all of that. and the feeling. What is the feeling from that? And typically the feeling or the feeling for me is like, you're even listening to me? Like, why am I even having this conversation? And then me being me, and I'm not saying this is the right solution. It's definitely not, but that's just me being me. I just walk away. But I can't be bothered with that. And sometimes I should be bothered. So that's my journey. That's my that's my learning. But I think you get what I'm saying, is that when somebody actually tries to understand, genuinely tries to understand, whether it's personally or professionally, it makes such a difference to the conversation and to that relationship. And we are far more likely to move forward from there, again, whether it's professionally or socially, in a way that is more useful, more enjoyable, more valuable. And in that, I believe when we practice this, we build better relationships. Um, Whether again it is professionally or socially or in a family situation with our children. So it works at all ages, and I think it works with all people. Um, I want to have a look at and like tying it into both mental fitness and an analogy that I use a lot. I might have shared it here on the podcast somewhere, I can't remember. Um, Mental fitness, the more mentally fit we are, the less we need to show off our ego, the less we need to prove to other people we know what we are talking about, or that we are good, or that we are right, or whatever the scenario is. So that's an ego need we have. And the more mentally fit we are, we can still maybe feel or experience, oh, I really want to say something here, or I really need to show that I know more about this than that person. But if we are mentally fit enough, we can catch that before we act on it. We just notice, I want to talk here over that person or solve something that possibly now is not the right time for that. We need a little bit more listening, a little bit more understanding. And that does take a certain level of mental fitness to be able to do that. So that brings back to, for me, what this is all about. Take every opportunity we can to grow our mental fitness because it helps us in everything in life. And it helps us with this particularly phrase today. Always seek to understand before seeking to be understood. And I mean, how many times, I'm not asking you to tell me how many times, but how many times have you been in a situation where you are trying to get a message across, which is trying to be understood, and it is just not landing for whatever reason? And when we are in a situation like that, if we are mentally fit enough, we recognize it and we can step out of a need to prove ourselves or whatever is lying underneath that, if it's there at all. And we can go, okay, the message is not landing. People are not understanding what I'm saying. Then that's a time, if we haven't done enough, focus on trying to understand first, then it will show up like that. And that's our opportunity to recognize that and then go, okay, I'm going to turn it around. I'm going to stop trying to be understood and I'm going to focus on trying to understand and then start asking questions. So, what I just said, what landed for you, or what did you hear, or how do you see that, or how would that work for you? And then get people starting getting feedback. And that feedback, you will hear whether they have understood you or not. It becomes clear very quickly. You're trying to sell a product and they're talking back to you, and you sort of in your mind go, They have no idea what I was just talking to them about. They're not getting it at all. But then now you know that. You know it because you took a moment trying to understand. And then you can come back and then sell that product in a different way or get your message about this project across in a different way and be more creative with that. And then stop and then check in again. Is that landing? And then you're back in trying to understand. And when you have a conversation like that, again, whether socially or professionally, you're gonna get further. And of course, it's not about just seeking to understand and sit there and shut up and listen to other people all day and not say anything or not do anything. That obviously is not going to work either. So it's finding the balance in that. And that's my invitation to you today to just think about this in your own life. Where does this show up? And it may be for you that you're really, really good at this in your professional career. You know, I'm pretty good at it in my career. I'm not as good at it in my family situation. With friends, I'm pretty good at it. The place that I'm the least good at is in social settings, and then with my own family and my wife. So just think for yourself, you know, where could you take this principle and really embody it for a few days and say, I'm going to spend the next couple of days in these specific situations, like my next business meeting with the business team, if you're the team lead, or the next business meeting if you're a member of a team. Take that principle with you into that meeting, whether it's a one-on-one or one-to-many, and play with it and see what happens. And also notice there might be some resistance to that. Because I've come across a lot of people, and I'm one of them too, in situations where I'm really excited about something. I just can't shut up. And my wife will kind of start, if she's there in that situation, she will sort of start poking at me or giving me the signals like, shut up, you're talking too much. But when it's something I'm really excited about, then I can talk forever, even though I'm an introvert and I prefer not to talk much at all. But in certain situations, I'm hard to shut up. And then sometimes that means that I've gone in trying to be understood more than trying to understand whether what I'm sharing is landing and whether I even should be saying what I'm saying because I didn't try to understand first. So the analogy I said I want to tie this in with, now that we've got the mental fitness part sorted, is a GPS analogy. Um, I use it a lot with my clients again, and particularly prospect client, when I'm trying to explain what I do as a coach. I use this as an analogy because it perfectly explains my coaching process. And it works like a GPS. And I will ask people, what is the first thing that a GPS does when you turn it on? And 9 out of 10 people will say either well, it asks you where you want to go, or there was, oh, I just put in where I want to go. We as human beings seems in today's world to have become really good at knowing our destination. Like, yeah, I want to go to this restaurant or to this address, or I want to take the business from this profit to this profit, or I want to improve my golf game from this to this, or my fitness, or whatever it is. So it seems to be very easy to set some destination. We can call them goals, we can call them desires, and most of us are pretty good at that overall. Yep, I want this and I want this and I want that and I don't want that and I don't want that. So just like a GPS, from a GPS point of view, that is completely useless. knowing for the GPS to know where it needs to design a route to get to is of no use whatsoever until something else has happened. And that's back to the question, what is the first thing the GPS does when you turn it on? And when I push enough, people will eventually tell me it figures out where it is because there is no way it can design the route to where you want to go if it doesn't know the starting point. And that for me is the same in coaching. If the person doesn't know their starting point, then spending all this time setting goals and their visions and what they want in their life has very little to no value. Because we will often set goals and destinations that are actually not reachable in reality, given where we currently are at. So that's what I do with my clients. I start with helping them to figure out what their starting point is. Like, who are you? Where are you right now? What are your beliefs? What are your limitations? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And on and on and on. And the more deeply we come to understand who we are. So now we are back, always seek to understand before seeking to be understood. Always start with figuring out where you are, understanding where you are before you're trying to make it understood where you want to go. So same phrase again. Um, And the clear with the GPS is reasonably obvious. You turn it on, if it's got signal, it figures out exactly where it is. Very, very quick. I wish it was that quick for us. Unfortunately not. But same when you're working with another person, whether it's a client, whether it's a customer, whether it's the boss, whether it's your staff, the more you invest in understanding what that customer needs or what or where that staff is at, then you're going to get much further because when you are trying then to be understood, you know whether they're going to understand you or not. And you're going to know whether this customer needs the product service you have. It may be that they don't need it at all. And then save the time and move on to somebody who does. But you need to do your research first, whether that's actually market research done through social media or whatever, or whether it's out knocking on doors and asking people. It doesn't matter. It's the same principle. Always seek to understand before seeking to be understood. So for me, that's a really actually a wonderful example of that principle with using the GPS. And then once we are clear on, once we have the understanding of where we are, then we can go, what is a realistic destination I can get to? So with a GPS, if this destination is 100 kilometers away and you only got 10 minutes for the journey, unless you got a helicopter, you're not going to make it. So we don't need to set a destination that we actually can't get to. And the GPS will tell us how long it's going to take and we don't have the time. Don't start the journey or know that you're going to be late. So the clear that understanding is, the more powerful destinations in our life, in our business, with our teams, we can set, and the more likely we are to get there. And that's, the second part with my clients, once we've done that for quite some time, because it does take time and energy, then we set goals or destinations that matches that. And then it becomes about designing the route there. Just like the GPS, go this way, that's the quickest. You could also go that way. There's maybe less turns, there's a little bit longer. There's a few different options that it might give you. And as a coach for me, then it becomes my job to help that person to design the pathway to the destination they want to go to, but at least know where they're starting. Um, so I want to finish this up shortly, but I want to make it really coming in and making it as relevant as I can to business and to leadership. This podcast is primarily designed for business people, business leaders, business owners, and so on. What is the difference between a manager and a leader? When I ask people, what would you prefer to be? Would you rather be a manager or a leader? Like in generally, people will say a leader. Mhm. When I ask staff, what would you rather have, a manager or a leader? It's the same answer. Nothing wrong with management. Certain things need managing. Sometimes the kids needs managing. Um, so a certain aspect of business requires management. We need to manage the finances, we need to manage the calendars, and we need to manage the processes and so on. And sometimes we need to manage people. We need to say, okay, you need to do this, and you need to do this, and you need to do this, so that we can get this product to there. Again, nothing wrong with that. It's not very inspiring, but sometimes that is what needed to get things done. What that means in that moment, we're not practicing what I'm sharing today. And that's okay. We can't do this all the time. Seek to understand before seeking to be understood. In that management role, we are mostly in the role of trying to be understood and directing other people. And sometimes that's what's needed. If you want to grow a business and grow a business team and have a business environment that is a positive, creative entity that is growing and creating incredible results, then you have to step into the role of leadership. And as soon as you put those other shoes on, now I'm operating as a leader. In that moment, my phrase today becomes the most important phrase. Always seek to understand before seeking to be understood. I'm probably going to say it a few more times. I know you're going to get sick of it. Um, how do we engage people in general? Not by telling them to engage, but by encouraging them to engage. What is one way of doing that? Yes, you got it. Seek to understand. We ask questions. So we got this issue, we got this problem, or we got this product, or we are not getting this to market. How are we solving that? And instead of telling people what to do, we ask them, what do you think we should do? What are your thoughts on this? What is your understanding of this? What is your understanding of our current market? What is your understanding of our prospective market? What is your understanding of our product? And what are the biggest benefits of them, and what are maybe some of the downsides to it? And in that dialogue, you get information. But not only that, people are engaging because people want to engage. People want to be useful. People want to be creative. People want to work together. People want a nice, conducive work environment to be the best they can be. Make that happen. You can't do that as a manager. So you're doing your managing thing over here when you need to, same person, and then you do your leadership thing. And that's where the seek to understand before seeking to be understood comes into play. And the more you do that, the more your team will engage. to the point where sometimes they will just fix things, take care of things, without you having to do anything about it. And isn't that what you want to get to? So that you can focus on what is the next thing? How do we grow this even further? What is the best next step here? And so on. And often you're going to find that the best solutions to the challenges that you are having are actually going to come from your team because they're the ones who are in the weeds doing the stuff and often will have a better understanding of the process that you are trying to manage or to lead than you might have. So why not use the skills and the interest that is there already with that? And one way of drawing that out is by using this, and do I need to say it again? No, I don't think. Yes, I'm going to say it again. Always seek to understand before seeking to be understood. So I hope you can see that this works everywhere in life. And I could give tons of more examples and make this much longer. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to shut up very shortly. And we're going to leave you to go and play with this. So as per usual, just take a moment and think about what was the biggest learning, what was the biggest takeaway for you from this episode today. And again, if it works for you, pop it in the comments. And particularly, ways that you can see that if you could become just a little bit better at seeking to understand before seeking to be understood, what would that be? Would it be with your children? Would it be with your wife or husband? Would it be as a leader in your business? Or would it be on the golf course? To finish with, as per usual, please take any opportunity you can to consciously grow your mental fitness. Till next time. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Mental Fitness, the Gateway to Success. If you have stories of how mental fitness has benefited you that you are happy to share, go to my website, mikal.nz, click on podcast and fill in the guest application form. If you want direct support from me utilizing my 40 years of mental fitness learning and practice, email me at coach@mikal.nz or message me on LinkedIn. Any feedback, review, share, follow, like, or any other good stuff is of course appreciated. Thank you for listening to Mental Fitness, the Gateway to Success podcast. I'm your host, Mikal Nielsen.